All right, it's Saturday, July the 30th. I can't be more happier than I am now. Tonight, folks, we get to sit at the foot of a Buddha. And tonight our guest is Lon Milo DuQuette. He's going to be coming on here in just a second. My name's Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. You can check out our website at lightingthevoid.com. We are the ultimate truth-seeking show. At least we like to say we are. You can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/lightingthevoid and Twitter at lightingthevoid. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter to get your esoteric library pass. And yeah, that's what we're up to. So tonight is a trademark night with Lon Milo DuQuette. If anybody has ever studied anything in magic, Thelema, if you like good folk jazz music, you've heard of Lon Milo DuQuette. I mean, come on, right? I mean, this guy's a legend. He's wrote over 17 books. You can't get better than that. When it comes to creativity, character, and all of the good stuff, you can't get better than Lon Milo DuQuette. So that's who we're going to have on in a minute. I don't think that I'm going to save like news. I don't think I'm going to talk about politics. I know you're tired of it. I don't ever talk about it, so try not to. And we'll just let Cheryl do any of the news if she wants to do the news. So yeah, that's what's going on now. Thanks for the donations, by the way. Again, Jordan, Ron, I appreciate that. It's really the copyrighted bumper music and stuff that costs a lot of money. So anything will help if you can help, but you don't have to. You know, sometimes I don't have $5, so just share stuff across the web. And you guys have been doing a real good job at doing that, and I really appreciate it. And we got a lot of good responses from Danny's show last night. So, yeah, we got Lon Milo DuQuette coming up here in just a minute. And speaking of which, we're going to tee off on the break here before we bring him on with a little bit of music from the maestro. So you hang tight, man. It's going to be a heck of a show. We'll be right back.
Don't bother me, because space and time and what they used to be. The future now is history, especially when it comes to me. I ain't what I appear to be.
Winner, and this is Lighting the Void news. According to the Miami New Times, Carol Jenkins Barnett gave a sizable donation to a conservative-led campaign fighting medical marijuana legalization. State election records show that Carol Jenkins Barnett Family Trust donated $800,000 on the 14th of July to Drug-Free Florida, the lobbying group running a scare tactics campaign to kill Florida's medical marijuana amendments. In 2014, Jenkins Barnett reportedly gave more than $500,000 to the same group, which helped squash 2014's medical marijuana amendment, which fell just 2 percentage points short of the 60% vote it needed to pass statewide. With a similar bill called Amendment 2 in the ballot this November, Drug-Free Florida is backspreading lies, half-truths, and misinformation about the proposed law. According to Forbes, Jenkins Barnett, daughter of Publix founder George Jenkins, is worth $1.8 billion and owns under 5% of the supermarket chain. This could theoretically be because Publix is also one of the largest pharmacies in the South, and legalized medical weed might cut into her family's prescription pill business. According to a recent United for Care funded poll, 77% of Florida voters supported medical marijuana legalization. Thanks for listening to Lights in the Void News. I'm Cheryl Trainer.
Now that is how you report the news. Thanks, Cheryl. You wouldn't think so many people would be fighting off medical marijuana. There's so many other things to fight about out there. Why would you want to put up a fight for that, against it? Really? You don't have better things to do? Come on. Well, I'll get off my soapbox here, and I'm going to introduce our next guest tonight. We have one of the world-famous musicians and magicians, Lon Milo DuQuette. And it is awesome to have him here. He is a legend in the magical community. He is also the O.T.O's United States Deputy Grand Master. He is also Archbishop of Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica, the ecclesiastical arm of O.T.O, and the longest living member of the O.T.O after the death of Phyllis Seckler. He's an author of over 17 book titles on subjects such as Enochian, Geomancy, Crowley, Qabalah, and much more. He is a true magi of his time, and he teaches us all the walk and path of a modern-day magician with his positive attitude, humor, love of life, and his warm character all the way around. He is truly one of a kind, and he really does set an example to all of us students and even teachers of the mystery when it comes to character. And Lon, I got to tell you, it is awesome to have you here tonight. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine, Joe. Thanks for having me on this hot Saturday night.
Well, on behalf of us and the Path of the Sun Keepers Facebook group, we're like really happy to have you here, man. It's a real
glad to be
pleasure.
Here.
And let me tell you something, man. Your music, it is addicting. It grows on you like a monkey on your back. Yeah, man. Like I was like driving around today, and I'm thinking, you know what, man? I'm gonna. This is my new riding music. You know, like when I'm gonna take a trip to Texas and listen to that thing all the way across there. It's gonna be great. That's
very kind of you to say.
Yeah, it's. I mean, were you into magic before music, or was it the other way around?
Well, I was into music pretty much all my life. I, like every boy my age at the time, I had a band when I was in high school, and when I moved, when I finished high school in Nebraska, I immediately moved back to California, where I'd been born. I was actually from California, but was raised in Nebraska. I came straight back to California, and just immediately within days, just lucked out and started getting some very, very, I was very lucky in getting gigs. And I met up with a writing partner, and we got ourselves a recording contract with CBS, or Epic Records, which is owned by Columbia, CBS.
Yeah, it's a pretty big
and we did a couple singles and an album, and a few other people recorded some of our songs too. And along about 1972, when my wife became pregnant with our son, I more or less said, this music career is really fun, but it's almost too much fun for a family man. Somebody wants to be a family man, and because it was kind of a wild lifestyle. And so truly I hung it up in around 1972, and but that's about the same time I really started to get interested in magic. I had been interested in mystical stuff ever since I was a kid in Nebraska, and figured out being I was not a very good Methodist, and so I'd always been seeking, and when I came back to California, right in the middle of the sort of the mystical revolution of the 60s, the psychedelic and Eastern mysticism revolution, I got very, very turned on to the idea of consciousness being the nature of reality, rather than the classic way religions look at spiritual things. And but around 72, I became interested in magic and the Western mystical traditions, and so that sort of absorbed my my creative impulses there for quite a few years. So I didn't miss music at all. I didn't have a guitar for years, and I started writing around 1988, and that sort of absorbed my creative. That was my creative outlet for a while, and then just about 5 years ago, maybe a little longer, one of my Monday Night Magic class members bought me a guitar, and somebody else bought me a ukulele, and I started plunking around again, and all of a sudden I started writing songs again, and I was being interviewed by a Canadian television film crew who had come to my house to film me, and they said, "Gee, we heard you made an album and some records and stuff. It'd be nice if we had some shots of you performing on stage." And I said, "Look, I haven't performed on stage in 25 years, And they said, "Oh, but it'd be really cool because you've written some new songs and you're kind of wild and crazy." So I arranged with a local club here in town to let me have the stage for an evening, and I called up a few friends, and we filmed that. And then kind of one thing led to another. I started appearing at a couple of these open mic night things, and
it just took off.
One night a guy,
that's
just more or less it. I got interviewed by the local newspaper, and that thought my story was kind of interesting because, by then I'd written a bunch of books and sort of had a presence in the literary world. And Alan Corcoran interviewed me for Orange County Music Scene magazine thing, and then so he sort of took me on as a record label and a publisher. And every place I go to speak and lecture now, I usually do a concert in town or two, and so finally a couple of years, well, I guess it's less than 2 years ago, I was playing somewhere. It might have been Nashville.
So you talk about,
and someone said, I didn't even know you wrote books, and right. I said, okay, that's.
Is all of your stuff, your books, your music, even your tarot, all of this stuff, you wrote everything. Did you have any help in writing any of this stuff?
The first 4 things I did was with the great author, Christopher S. Hyatt.
Oh, yeah.
And he and I co-wrote 4 books together in 1990 and 91. And so he's the guy that actually drugged me kicking and screaming into the discipline of writing. And so my first 4 efforts were done with him, and he more or less took me as far as I needed to have the writing bug bite me, Yeah. And then along about 92, I started writing on my own, and I haven't looked back.
Well, I have a guest that comes on the show a lot, Paul. He's a huge Kabbalist, right? And he's trying to write a book. if you could say something to like a new writer, like 'cause there's got to be something you got to break through. I mean, what do you have any words of wisdom for somebody that's, you know, just about to write a book, or maybe questioning themselves, or maybe, you know what, maybe this book's too long, maybe I need to chop it down, or do you just go with it, you know?
Oh, yeah, I am probably the laziest writer in the world, and I just am not motivated to come up with a product. if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But what I do, and what I advise anybody to try to do, is just pretend that you're trying to explain the subject to someone that you've just met on the airplane or something, and when you start explaining and organizing your thoughts to explain stuff to someone that doesn't have any background in this whatsoever, you discover that you're explaining it to yourself too. You don't know what you know until you try to explain it to somebody.
Yeah.
You don't know how smart you are already. You really don't. And you don't, nobody gives themselves credit for their knowledge or their wisdom. And when you try to explain it to somebody, it allows you to explain it to yourself, sometimes for the very first time. And a few years back, I wrote a book called The Chicken Qabalah. And in order for me to tackle the subject of practical Kabbalah, I tricked myself. I created an alter ego that I called Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford.
Yeah.
And I didn't do this to be cute. I really did this as I let this guy say all the things that I couldn't bring myself to say. So I invented this crazy, eccentric rabbi that could say outrageous but very truthful things that cut right to the meat of what this was about. And I allowed him to give voice to my thoughts, and I did it as an exercise here at my Monday night magic class. And the goofier I got with these explanations, and the goofier the classes became, the more I could see, wow, not only am I explaining this stuff really fast, but I'm keeping the people awake. I'm keeping the class, awake and giggling, at the same time. So in a sense, that's exactly what I did. I got out of myself to become my own voice. As a matter of fact, the book I'm working on right now is like a second installment of Rabbi Ben Clifford's so-called Chicken Qabalah teachings. And they're based on what I'm doing in China at the moment. I'm teaching Kabbalah in China, and I've been in the last, the last 16 months. I've been to China 5 times, and I've been to Beijing already this year in December, March, and June, and I go back in September, and I go back in December again. And I'm teaching an ongoing class in Qabalah. Now, can you imagine the challenge of teaching something that really has as its foundation the Greek and Hebrew alphabet and the numbers that are associated with, especially the Hebrew alphabet, and the entire Kabbalistic fundamentals to Chinese people that don't even speak English. It's like if a space alien came down and landed in your backyard and somehow said, "Explain to me your your beliefs," or explain to me your spiritual worldview. How could you do that in the least amount of words that tell the maximum amount of information with the least amount of words? And I'm constantly having to
re-explain the same thing,
simplify, and cut to the very, very source. And I have no recourse to say, well, if you've read MacGregor Mathers, or if you've read the Zohar, or if you've read the Kabbalah Denudata, or if you're familiar with this translation of the Sefer. I can't do that.
Right.
I'm starting totally from square one with this, and it's well, of course, it's driving me crazy, but it's I see it as this is my initiation. This is my test. Sure. This is what, and so I teach from 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night with 2 hours for lunch, 3 days in a row, and the fourth day is a seasonal ritual that I do. So, and that's all PowerPoint presentations. It's a book's worth of material and hands-on exercises, small little ceremonial magic type rituals that are
you do this
constructed
both
to sort of illustrate these Kabbalistic principles. And it's the same people. They signed up for all four installments. And so that's what's been occupying me lately. And the good folks at Weiser have agreed to publish my my notes once I turn it into sort of book format as my next offering.
So how have I not heard about this Monday Night Magic thing, man? I would have been all over that. I missed the bus, I guess. I mean, are you going to do this for a little bit longer, you think?
Well, I've been. This is in my house. This is in Constance and I host this thing, and we've done it since 1976. Every Monday night, and once we got on Enochian magic, we did it 2 nights a week for 3 years. So I've had this weekly class going now 40 years. And if you're in the Costa Mesa area, you're free to stop by from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock every Monday night. There's some people who've been at class 26, 27 years, and there's some that just are there for the first time, and it's very informal. And believe me, some of them are better than others. But we do it every Monday that I'm in the country. It's even when I travel to other cities, I'm usually back for Monday night class. So it's another thing that sort of keeps me on point. and because class is a mixture of people who we could probably technically call them adepts, extremely knowledgeable magicians, extremely experienced spiritual adepts, and at the same time people that have just barely started their studies, and it's a mix of total beginners and just saints every Monday night.
Okay.
And I'm challenged to explain this stuff and to still be valuable and stimulating to the adepts, and still understandable to the newbies. And in that sense, that's been a very good exercise for me too, because I'm sure you know, as well as anybody, that when you start talking magic, you can really, really rapidly go off into esoteric land and lose sight of what you're actually doing all of this for, because the minutia of occultism is so elegant and attractive and colorful that in short order you forget why the hell you're even doing this stuff,
right,
and
yeah.
just falling in love with the doing it, Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Oh yeah. That it's just your mind goes in all different directions, because I think magic, well, I say magic and mysticism, but magic as a whole, the more I study it, the truer it just seems. So true, doesn't it? I mean, like everything about it seems so true, and which is fascinating to me, that for a man like you that I've heard, I think it was either on the Higher Side chats or the talk, where you said, I absolutely will not set goals. Screw that. I try to live in the moment, second to second.
Yeah.
A man that does that is you have so much to show for. And it's almost like, if this was true, we've been taught the wrong thing from the start. I think we have. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, and it may just work for me, but I've never set a goal. Okay, I really. It sounds blasphemous.
Yeah, it does.
But I've set no goals. Okay, I don't, and it's not that I'm afraid that I won't make it. It's just that it's so stupid for me. Maybe I'm just too lazy to make a goal. But there's all I can do, and this may just be a severe form of attention deficit disorder. Maybe I have a disorder, but I can only do what is in front of my nose to do, almost from microsecond to microsecond. When we talked a little bit before I came on, you mentioned that you're a little surprised that I agreed to come on the show so readily.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I didn't even think about it. Okay, it was your request came up at a time when it appeared in front of my nose, and I realized this is the only thing that I can do. It's not like I even had a decision to make. Maybe I'm so lazy I don't want to make decisions. But the universe throws in your face the very next thing for you to do. Right. And if you just open your eyes, you see what that is. Now, whether or not that fulfills the definition of what Crowley was trying to talk about when he said each of us has a will. Each of us, we wouldn't even exist as a monad of consciousness here if there wasn't something in the universe that needs to be done that only we can do. There isn't a wasted subatomic particle in the universe. So we're here for some reason, and that reason is in front of our nose from microsecond to microsecond. And it's not that we have to become wise or educated or everything else. We just have to wake up to see what it is that needs to be done right now. And when you do that, it feels like that you're riding this insanely huge wave, this momentum of the entire universe. You have the inertia, you have the momentum of the entire universe behind you when you're operating like that. So it's not like you've invoked anything. No, you just have paddled yourself right into the mainstream of existence, and that carries you very, very fast. Okay, compared to trying to swim against that current from time to time. So Crowley's thing is I can see it from a very simplistic point of view, was that stream, that pure stream, is what everybody for the last 5,000 years or longer has been viewing as the will of God.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no argument with that. But the thing is, we've been asked for thousands of years to try to guess what the will of God is and somehow attempt to cooperate with it. When the whole idea isn't that impossible act of doing that, the real thing is find out what our will is, and that is one and the same thing as what everyone else was calling the will of God all these years. Does that make any sense?
Oh, words from a modern day Buddha. I told you, you get real humble about it, but that's modern day Buddha talk right there, man. It's so clear to me that, I'll just say when I first started studying this stuff, every one of us hears, magic is wonderful, magic is beautiful. Stay away from that Crowley stuff, right? We've all heard it, And I think after I've really studied Aleister Crowley and the late and great magician Stephen Ash, who passed away not too long ago, was on the show and was talking about it, got me studying it. And if you do things in your life, and I've had a couple of moments, and I'm sure you've had plenty, where you're doing things that's your higher will and will to your higher self, and it is, it has love involved and happiness and life and light. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing higher. There's nothing better. I don't think God made a purpose for anything better than that. And that's what I think he was trying to get across to us all. And I really think that you talk about Crowley a lot. You get those questions, those controversial questions on a lot of radio shows. And I don't know if you feel like that you have to represent him, but I know this. If he's out there and he hears you, I know he's proud of you. I know that he knows you get it.
That's very kind of you to say. He's like everybody. He had his shortcomings, but we could probably say that for every giant saint, known and unknown, in the past. Okay, he was a human being too, with all his human shortcomings and stuff, and but he was also very, very lucky to be able to at least, in a consistent manner over many, many years, to eloquently and if you do a little homework, he was even adequately expressing these profound insights in a language understandable to even morons like me. Okay, and so he's. He's got this horrible reputation, and we can also dig up all sorts of things about Crowley to go, oh, that was so icky. Oh, I wouldn't have done that, and oh, how could anybody be a holy man and do that or say that? But when it comes right down to it, that was we're all this true essence. We all are the Godhead itself.
Right.
And everything else, our personality, our minds, our brains, our bodies, our emotions, all of that are just masks, husks, shells that surround this Godhead. And some of those shells are better behaved than others. Some of them are better balanced than others. But the important thing is, when you're dealing with people that presume or find themselves in a position of being a teacher or an example, the difference is when that Godhead shines through, and when they can actually be talented enough to give voice to those bright moments of clarity, then you know you've got something. And it didn't take me too long. I didn't have to read very much Aleister Crowley before I could see that. I saw it almost instantly in his probably two most popular texts, the Magic and Theory and Practice, which was available back in the 70s, and his Book of Thoth. And he wrote one, Magic and Theory and Practice, in the 1920s. He wrote the Book of Thoth in the 1940s, just before he died. And I could even in my uneducated, ignorant naivete, I could see that this guy was giving voice to the mechanics of existence itself. He was more than a teacher. Okay, when people call him a prophet, I'm very comfortable with the term prophet. Because prophets don't have to be holy men like saintly figures that never sin.
Sure.
Look at Old Testament prophets.
Yeah, or Paul.
I mean, prophets can be assholes.
Right.
And still that doesn't detract from their job as a prophet. A prophet only needs to be able to see with unobstructed vision the essence of truth, and he has the audacity to give voice to it, even if it means him being crucified for saying it. And even though they didn't tack Crowley up to a cross, he's still being crucified this day by people that presume to understand him and trash him in print.
Yeah, a lot of rumors get passed around and stuff, and I don't know. I do have this one big question, and I just wanted to ask it to you because I know you'll be honest about it. There's the Lima, right? And then there's the Rosicrucians. Do you think they're two different, realistically? Are they really two different paths? Do they misunderstand each other? Or why did you choose that road? or is it the same thing?
Well, I don't see anything as being two paths. There's only one path.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. There's only one, and you can call it one thing at one part of your career, and you can call it another thing at another part of your career, and your definition of both of those titles can change 50 times a day for 50 years. You know, there isn't a monolithic Rosicrucian thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. You could look at Kabbalah, you could look at tarot, you could look at tantric yoga, you could look at astrology and all the Hermetic sciences. You could lump that up into the general term Rosicrucianism. But Rosicrucianism was a term that was made up because of its obscurity.
Right.
There was Crowley's AA. He calls it AA not to give it to define it, but to be vague, because it's so big that you can't circumscribe it with a label.
Right.
Okay. If we were going to call it something, we could just call it the work.
That's yeah. I've heard it being called that. Yeah, and it's definitely an individual road, isn't it?
Yeah. So now, when it comes down to little definitions and little terms, there's like the Rosicrucian Order Amorc. Okay. There's a Rosicrucian Fellowship down in. That mostly just does astrology stuff nowadays. And then there's the Rosicrucians that the Golden Dawn called themselves the Rosicrucians, but, you know, that goes back to, 1888? Mm-hmm. Then there's all of these European Rosicrucian groups that we could probably take a little bit, trace a little bit further back into the early 1700s. Then the Rosicrucians that we all fantasize about, the Christian Rosenkreuz, the German adepts with the ancient vault and everything else, that melds into mysticism, and a couple of pamphlets and a couple of posters that were printed by wild and crazy guys, similar to people that you and me know right now, to almost tricksters. Almost cosmic, quasi-political, quasi-social radicals that were tacking up confessions and domas and handing out pamphlets announcing this secret society that truly never existed as an organized group outside of their own minds. But it was enough to get people off their asses and joining up in their own hearts an invisible society of people that were who spake different languages, and who a chemist over here in Bavaria, and then a philosopher over here in Holland. Okay, they could say, you know, I don't know what I am, but I know I'm something bigger than all of this, and so I'm going to call myself a Rosicrucian. And then it only seems like a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy of an invisible egregore. And you can't tell me that isn't real.
Right.
That's more real than if they got together at the Hyatt House in Baden-Baden and had a convention, okay, where they voted and had minutes and stuff like that, which that never happened, okay?
Sure.
But this other thing did happen. And in a sense, look how the adepts of the Golden Dawn, with their demonstrably fraudulent foundational papers, Mathers just admitted, we made the whole thing up. There was no Frau Sprengel, everything else. Okay. They confessed all of their myth was fabricated.
It does make you wonder what else were conjured
But the
up.
point is their work is real.
Right.
The work is absolutely real. Crowley's AA thing the O.T.O is about the closest thing to an organization that actually meets and pays dues and does everything in sort of an outer way, but it was always meant to do that in order to perpetuate initiation ceremonies and publishing.
Yeah.
But the idea of Thelema, which is and it was very, very insightful of you to match or to pair up the terms Rosicrucians and Thelema, because both of them are these huge concepts that are just so big that you can't really pin them down to a single set of doctrines or dogma that define them. So I would say that your radio show is part of a Rosicrucian movement, okay? And I'm seeing that what I'm doing on your Rosicrucian-y show, okay, is giving voice to at least Lon's understanding or Lon's take of the Thelemic facet or the Thelema facet to your Rosicrucian show.
Right.
If I probably just confused you more than
No.
I've enlightened you.
You read me like a book, actually. It's just, I can speak for many people, many beginners, many seekers, many people that are just opening up and they're reaching out for an egregore, as you say, or a fellowship, or somebody to relate to, some organization, and they're being pulled different ways with different beliefs and different things, even though it's all it's an individual thing. If you feel like you need to join up with a society, it's kind of rough out there as far as what else everyone's saying. So ultimately,
right, sure. It's and I don't know what your experience was, but I benefited very much by the fellowship I received with the Rosicrucian Order Amorc for a few years. I also was enjoyed very much my experience in the traditional Martinist order, and of course I took the Builders of the Adytum lessons. But I was also a part of the Paramahansa Yogananda's Self-Realization Fellowship studies. And for years, especially early on in our marriage, we were very active in the Self-Realization Fellowship. The point is, however, that I guess, and I'm not telling you to ignore the structure or the techniques of whatever organization you belong to. They're all constructed for a reason. But the point is that no organization no organization, not even ultimately, not even a personal magical mentor, is going to take you anywhere.
Right.
And the idea that, yes, I keep using the word fellowship because it really is helpful to be around a few people that don't think you're just batshit crazy all the time, you know. And you can talk with people like you can't talk with them at the coffee shop about certain things. Not only that, but you can see where things are working with people, and you can see where they're not working, and you can use sort of it helps you, and because sometimes, because we're like suns, okay, we're like the sun. If there weren't any other planets going around the sun would look around and say, God, everything's dark. Because the sun can't even see its own light unless it sees it reflected off of a planet,
right,
a satellite. So this idea that it truly is helpful to feel that you're, in a sense, part of a community and everything. But that community isn't what takes you along. That community won't take you anywhere. If you're going to go someplace, you're going to have to go either with the help you can receive from your communal experience, or in spite of it. My teachers, okay, early on, the ones I learned the most from personally was Phyllis Seckler, who was Jane Wolfe's student, and Jane Wolfe lived with Crowley in Cefalù, Sicily, at the Abbey of Thelema.
Mm-hmm.
She was a 9th degree O.T.O. person. Grady McMurtry, who was a 9th degree O.T.O., lived with Crowley or studied with Crowley in England during the war. He was made 9th degree O.T.O. by Crowley. But, you know, and Israel Regardie, who I had met in the early 70s, who was Crowley's secretary, and who wrote really probably one of the very good first biographies of Crowley. Now, these people worked with Crowley, knew Crowley, were very experienced old magicians who actually lived and survived, you know, all of these terrible rigors of Crowley when he was alive, and then World War II and all of that. But you know, I learned more in spite of those teachers than I learned from them.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
learned more. Okay, so does that make them bad teachers? No, it makes them great teachers.
Right.
Okay, but they taught me, despite their efforts to instruct me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And in a sense, both my teachers and myself, we both were carried along by the work itself, and that we benefited from being with each other. I would have to say I've benefited immensely with my experience in the O.T.O. But my experience in the O.T.O. is totally unique and different than anybody else's experience in the O.T.O. is. No two people will have the same experience. It's not the O.T.O. that does this. It's your work that does it. And when I joined the O.T.O., there was like 5 living members left. these old ninth degree members left over. They're all in their 60s.
Oh, wow. That's
okay.
Wild, because it's huge now.
And there was Grady, there was Phyllis, there was Mildred Burlingame, who I'd never got a chance to meet. There was Helen Parsons Smith. These old timers, the O.T.O, almost became extinct in the late 60s. Mm-hmm. And I started writing them in 72, and I didn't get initiated till 75. And there was less of them in 75 by the time I got initiated. And they're all dead now.
Well, I hate to say this, but, I don't hate to say it, but, maybe you're the face of the O.T.O right now. And that's why I was saying, I think Crowley would be proud of you. And as ironic as it sounds, when you say this is an individual journey, if Crowley epitomizes the individual journey, everything that he ever came up against as far as rules, regulations, and caste systems, he would fight it to the T. And don't you think the whole magical community, all the knowledge that we know, we owe quite a bit of it to him? I would say, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I would say any knowledgeable college professor that's teaching modern religions would agree with you 100%, and because that's just flat out the case. We're all becoming a little more mature and a little more pragmatic. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the witchcraft movement was sort of in a fantasy world about where they're concerning their own existence and their own genesis, and thinking that and looking at Crowley as just a nasty old patriarchal guy. But now they're seeing that the witchcraft movement, modern witchcraft movement, is a relatively new thing, and they owe so much to Gerald Gardner, and their whole thing literally started as a bona fide philosophy and movement, just in the 50s. And Gerald Gardner, of course, was close friends with Aleister Crowley. He was in the O.T.O. He was when Crowley died. Frida Harris, the artist of the Thoth Tarot, even thought Gerald Gardner had inherited the leadership of the O.T.O. That wasn't the case, but that's how close Crowley and Gardner were. Now neither one of them were super concerned with who's got paperwork for what. These guys were just friends. These guys were just adepts doing the work, being pals. The O.T.O. and what would later become the modern witchcraft movement was just like any number of expressions of their work that could carry on after they died. But now the witchcraft movement is now coming of age. They're now saying, yes, Crowley and Gardner were friends, and yes, they're starting to actually own how much of a wonderful thing that they have, that actually they are responsible for. They don't have to reach back into some fictional fantasy past. They're doing it themselves. They're creating a wonderful, wonderful movement, and they don't need to reach back for a fantasy Genesis, in the same way that you and me don't need to reach back to the Rosicrucian fantasy Genesis for our work.
Yeah, it sure does seem like a lot of waste of energy. I mean, you learn a lot, but if you're searching for the beginning and, you know, what's real behind the scenes and stuff, every time you're searching for the ultimate secret or whatever, it's like it's already out there, and it's already out there in bounds by what Aleister Crowley put up. But there's a lot of people afraid to pick up his writings. I mean, I've been warned off of him by personal friends, you know, just don't, you know, I know you keep a lot of the stuff you're saying, you're starting to sound like Crowley and, you know, do what thou wilt. So what they think is when I say do what thou wilt, or they think that I'm just going to do whatever I want, regardless of consequence, or evil, or, you know, cause and effect, whatever, like it's chaotic thing. I really don't think that's what Crowley was teaching. I think what he was teaching was to try to find out, because you don't know, and we don't know, you know, we don't know nothing when we start this life, but you're trying to find out who you really are and what your will really is, and have it conform in your life. And magic takes you there. That's what I'm starting to get from it, because honestly, you know, back in the day, I would be like, oh, I better stay away from that, you know. But I didn't start learning new things until I picked up his material. I picked up your material. And, I mean, I'll just say it. You know, I don't plan on saying it on the radio show, but I'm slowly but surely changing my mind about all of it, you know.
Well, it's almost not like changing your mind. It's just seeing what you had. You're just seeing things more clearly, and it seems like when I first started to read Crowley, I tell this story a million times. I got the Thoth tarot cards because I was into the O.T.O tarot lessons and the Rosicrucians, and these beautiful tarot cards. I found them probably 1971 or two, and but I'd never heard of Crowley, or at least I did. The name rang a bell, and I got the cards home and I saw how beautiful they were and everything else. But the cards kind of scared me because they were so beautiful, if that makes any silly sense.
Yeah.
They certainly weren't like the the weight deck, you know. Mm-hmm. And they weren't like the BOTA deck, and they were kind of wild and crazy, and the fool looked insane, and there was some bare breasts and kind of fun stuff, but it just seemed a little weird. And I looked up in the little occult dictionary that I had, and it said Aleister Crowley, famous Scottish Satanist. I go, oh shit, man! Oh God!
Yeah,
you know, and I didn't mind being a heretic. Okay, ever since I was a kid, I was fine with heresy, but I didn't want to have anything to do with what I thought Satanism was. Okay, the word Satanism just no. And I got rid of the cards. I gave them to my brother, who had the Book of Thoth, and then a friend who I really respected, Mad Bob Batten. He might be listening tonight. He shows up at the house and asked me what I've been up to, and I said, "Oh, I've been studying this Rosicrucian stuff and tarot cards. And speaking of tarot cards, I got these Satan cards. And when I found out they were Satan cards, I got rid of them." And he said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "There's these cards by Aleister Crowley." That's how I pronounced it in those days. Crowley.
Yeah. And
he said, and he looked at me like I was the stupidest guy in the world, because he said, "You're the stupidest guy in the world." He said, "Everything you think you want to know about this magic and this Rosicrucianism and this tarot and this Qabalah stuff, all this stuff that you want to know about, this guy knew more than anybody else on the planet. And if you are really serious about this study, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to rub noses with this guy's material because it's the postgraduate work of this study.
All right, that's what I wanted to hear.
And I said,
interesting.
Wasn't that nice? I was blessed with a friend like that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, was he a Satanist? And he said, no, he wasn't a Satanist. And then he stops for a second and says, well, yeah, I guess he was, sort of. And then he said, no. And then he said, well, look, if he was a Satanist, he was a good kind of Satanist, and you're really going to like this guy. And it was such a stupid thing for him to say. You know, it didn't make all that much sense to me. And I said, okay, I'll get the cards back. And then I borrowed the Book of Thoth that my brother had, a little paperback Bantam press edition. And I read the Book of Thoth. And I could see what Bob was talking about. This guy was funny. This guy was absolutely brilliant. I didn't understand 99.99% of what he was saying, but the little scrap of stuff that I could understand proved to me that Bob was right, that this guy knew exactly what I wanted to learn. And I guess I've never looked back from that date. But even still, I heard all these terrible, terrible things. And even after I had arranged by letters, old-fashioned letters, this before email, to take O.T.O initiation up in Dublin, California. I had to take a bus, and oh, geez. And I still had this residual fear that maybe everything they said about Crowley was true, and that I was going to get up there to Dublin, California, and these people were going to rape me and eat me and kill me and drink my blood and all of that. And even I had those doubts after a couple of years of doing some pretty heavy work with his material. And I get up there, and here's Phyllis Seckler in her early 60s in a cloth coat and tennis shoes, and she's just the sweetest little high school art teacher. And Grady McMurtry is this kind of Sikh yoga instructor with a huge beard, and who had lived and talked with Crowley. And I got to hear stories of Crowley firsthand, and that everything I was afraid of was even less than silly. Okay. But they always said, well, there's plenty. Crowley was so eccentric and such a wild, audacious character that there's usually a little tiny scrap of truth in every one of the wild stories, but it's just a little scrap of truth, and Crowley always liked to keep that little scrap there to keep you on your toes. Crowley wanted to freak you out if you were easy to freak out.
Yeah, I get that.
Because that's an initiation right there. The first thing they tell you in the Golden Dawn in that neophyte ceremony is fear is failure and the forerunner of failure. Okay? And they give it to you as a lecture in the Golden Dawn, but Crowley makes you prove up time and time and time again. And when the thing they quote about him the most is this, it seems like he's confessing to sacrificing 120 male children one year. What? He says his magical diaries show that he sacrificed 120 male children one year, and but it's which is a stupid thing for him to write, because I don't know if he knew people were going to be repeating that a million years later, but they will. But the thing is, he was trying to talk about a sex magic operation where he, or a series of them, where in that year his diaries show that in one way or another he had ejaculated without making his partner pregnant 120 times.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
So in those days, when he wrote that, you could go to jail and have all of you could be arrested and sent to jail. And you could have all of your books seized and destroyed if you talked about sex.
Yeah.
You couldn't even write a medical journal and be candid and speak about sex organs, sex, techniques, or anything concerning sex. You couldn't speak too overtly about it, even in a medical journal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what you could talk about is human sacrifice.
Yeah, that was okay, right? You just couldn't talk about sex.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Man.
So it's like today. In video games, you can kill 1 million people in the video games, but you better not show any bare breasts, or you're going to get in trouble.
Well, I know you've talked about sex magic a lot. I know you've had to talk about it and talk about Crowley a lot on a lot of these shows and stuff. And I want to say that I think I understand where he's coming from, especially from like Gnostic teachings and stuff, that maybe the problem, or one of the problems in the world, is that we really don't treat sex as sacred as we ought to. And it's our own shame of it that causes all that, it really is a sacred thing between a man and a woman, and it should be treated that way, I believe. But, at least a magical experience, right? But I don't know if it's our shame that causes us to be so crazy with it, and we have all these children and divorces and all this stuff. And then if you ever really get into studying sex magic and the Gnostic teachings about it and stuff, from what I'm getting, and you can correct me here, that we should really treat this act as something more than just an animalistic thing,
Oh, absolutely. It's the creative impulse itself. And when Crowley, when it finally dawned on Crowley had been a pretty experienced and masterful magician since the early 1900s. He joined the Golden Dawn in 1888. Mm-hmm. Received the Book of the Law and a bunch of other holy books, Book of the Law in 1904, and other sort of channeled texts in 1907 and 8 and 9. But it wasn't until around 1915 that he became cognizant of the tantric or sexual magic teachings, techniques, and theories that were represented by this organization called the O.T.O. Crowley didn't invent the O.T.O. The O.T.O. was going before Crowley was involved in it.
Right.
But Crowley's a lot of Crowley's writings were kind of intuitive, ecstatic writings that just sort of poured out of him. And the head of the O.T.O. was centered in Germany at the time. The head of the O.T.O. saw in some of Crowley's literature that Crowley was actually discussing in a very, very clear and inspiring way the central secret of this sex magic, which had been the O.T.O's teachings that are truly connected with the Holy Grail mysteries. And he confronted Crowley. Hey, you're giving away our secrets. And Crowley said, I don't know your secrets. And he said, yes, you do. You wrote it right here. And Crowley said, is that the secret? And he said, yeah. And then he explains it to him. And Crowley goes, oh, my God, that's whoa, that makes all the other magic that I've been doing and looking into all of these. It makes that kind of magic seem pretty damn small compared to this. This is the magic that lights the stars. This is the magic that's in the core of every creative impulse. This is existence. This is being. This is everything. With this, you could create anything. With this, you could become everything. And when you're everything,
you can create.
You can create anything. You know, and so almost from that point on, when Crowley latched on to the potential behind this sex magic, he said, okay, that's all. I'm just going to focus on this for the next 50 years, for 40 years at least.
Well, what a lot of people might say, and I've heard them say it is yeah, I get the whole sex magic thing. I get the sacredness of it. I get all that. But could a person take it to another, like an evil level? Because you can get on Google, right? I mean, you can see, orgies and stuff. If you really want to search it and see it, it's out there. But I think that's missing the point still yet. Maybe it's just fear, of the other person's will. If you guys are going to go around doing whatever you want to do, then that means he can do whatever he wants to do with no consequence, and nobody cares about God anymore. That's the vibe I get from, I would say, the other side of this. Well,
if they're so limited in their focus that's how they say it, or that's how they see it, then they should stay away from it. They really, a person should stay away. If you're that limited in your view, and that from a Buddhist point of view, if you're still locked into that low end of duality, then you're too at the moment you're too kind of scared in order to safely involve yourself in this study.
Right.
So it's and that's not saying that the person is too stupid or not intelligent. It's not a matter of intelligence, but everybody has their own
awareness,
collection of baggage, and fears and psychological things that make certain things safe for them to experiment with, and some things that aren't. The point is that no kind of magic is either good or bad, or good or evil. There's only magic that is harmful to yourself or others, and that is productive and facilitates your own evolution. You don't want to hurt yourself. Okay, obviously you don't want to hurt yourself. And if you're really scared that something is, if you're scared of yourself enough to think that you could fall into evil and do bad things, then you're still capable of falling into evil and doing bad things.
Yeah. Well, speaking about
bad things,
the face and the fear, go ahead. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead of you.
Okay. And this is, we could blame a lot of the Western mental illness, and I see this as mental illness more than any sort of moral deficiency in people. But in the Western civilization, as we know it, the last say 3,000 years of Western civilization, a great deal of this mental illness we can blame on what this fellow Paul did to this perfectly lovely spiritual movement that started as Christianity.
I said the same exact thing in my episode with Stephen Ash. I think Paul was the guy that pushed the dogmatic fear onto people. I really do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, Paul is the virus.
Right.
that took something that was gloriously holy and turned it into something that was so monstrous that it infected the mental health of a good 2,000 years of
thousands
a major civilization.
Yeah.
And he made a very small god out of a concept that was to be inclusive of the God of the universe, the supreme consciousness. And he turned it into a small demon that we all have to make deals with and fear. And I won't even go into all of it. It's
no, I get the point. But fear to me, like you got a really good selling book right now this year. I don't know if it's your latest book, but it's selling like crazy this year. Is My Life with the Spirits. It's a bestseller on Amazon right now this year. And
oh, good.
Yeah, I was looking into that. I was like, that's the next book I'm going to read. And it takes some guts to face these demons. And the way you talk about the nature of a demon, I heard you on another show where you were saying, I forget the name of the show, but you were talking about you were at a time in your life and you needed money pretty bad. This wasn't a thing where you wanted to get rich or whatever. You just had to get some food and pay the bills. And you wanted to figure out what was causing this. And I forget who you said was telling you to stay away from it. And you said, well, I'm going to try it. And you found out that it was a demon that was guilt tripping you. You're like saying, I need some money. And then the demon would say to you, well, give me 6. He's cutting a deal, right? Give me 6 months.
Yeah, he's cutting a deal. Yeah.
You give me 6 months and I'll give you your money. And if you ain't done it by then, you're not a very good magician or anything for that matter. And then your character was tested at that point, and you realized this part of myself, this demon part of myself, you're the problem, and I'm not cutting this deal with you. We're going to do this thing now, right? And I don't know how, that's kind of how the vibe I got from that story. And it, it went off in my head.
That's the thrust of that story.
It just, spark went off in my head, and I was like, that's it. That's what these demons are. I get it now. I get they're parts of ourselves that we stuff back and we let the fear or whatever the, part they rule take control over us. And if we ever have the guts enough to pull them out, like Bruce Lee said, you got to face your shadow at some point, right?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what he's talking about too. And that's why the potentially that magic can work, because it's not the demon that fixes your problem. The demon is your problem.
Right.
And that's why you whip up that particular demon. That's why he's capable of fixing it, because he is the problem. He's been tormenting you with this issue your whole life. And the whole idea is you recognize it for the first time, and then you give it brand new marching orders. And there are perfectly knowledgeable magicians that will say, well, are you trying to say this is all in your head? And I know for a fact there's demons outside yourself. Well,
It's all the same
if
thing,
you're still
baby.
seeing
That's a
things like
chicken
that,
and egg
you know,
argument.
you're right. But there is no outside of yourself. Okay? That's what consciousness is about. Okay, we are monads of consciousness, but our consciousness is everywhere. We may look out of our eyeballs with our cones and rods and see impressions that seemingly are outside of ourselves, but everything we apprehend about this universe, we process inside ourselves. For all intent and purposes, we may look up into the heavens and see 50 million light years away, but it's still inside us. There is no outside of ourselves, and we with magic we take responsibility for the whole ball of wax.
Yeah.
Now it does. This supreme consciousness, this totality of existence, this totality of being, is what I adore and worship and love as deity. Okay. That totality is so big that it has no opposite. If it has an opposite, it's not big enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you said that before. You said that I heard that you were teaching another person that if a god claims an opposite, he's not much of a god, because God is
He's
everything.
not much of a god yet. Okay, yeah, a god's got to be so big that it's got no opposite. And this is this is Buddha's big thing.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're starting to talk about duality and good and evil and right and wrong and up and down and left and right and darkness and light, screw you. You're not awake enough.
Right.
You got to wake up to the big thing where there is no opposite. That's the awake. That's the ultimate awake. If you're still dealing with illusions of little goods and little evils, then you're still asleep. You're still dreaming. You haven't woke up quite yet.
You know, I say that on a lot of other shows.
And a magician who's not awake, okay, is still kind of in danger of not getting everything he can get out of magic and having things just not living up to the potential of magic. I've said it over and over again. I've turned it into my own cliche that the only thing you can change in magic and change with magic is yourself. If you want to cause changes to occur in your life and in the world around you, that's fine and good. Those are probably good motives. But you can only affect those changes by changing yourself into the type of person that can affect those changes. It's you. You're the only material. You're the prima mater. You're the only material that you have to work with, and you've only got one universe to work with, and that's yourself. And when people try to, they have some idea that I'm sitting here doing spells
Yeah.
to cause change to, if I could do that, maybe I would have done that as a young magician.
Right.
But that's not magic. People have a fantasy. I've got these hidden enemies. I'd just like to send a demon to go punch him in the nose.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what the hell are you thinking? In order to get a demon going, as you talked about in My Life with the Spirits, you're dealing with aspects of your own precious subconscious mind. You're dealing with your own sanity. Do you want to tinker around with that stuff just when you could just literally, much easier and much more painfully, walk over to the guy's house, knock, and punch him in the nose?
Yeah,
You're going to get in less trouble with your own sanity if you just do that. He's probably going to punch you back, and you're going to both learn big lessons. But
Well,
the
do you
idea
think
that you would use these precious tools of consciousness for such little shit like that? Oh, excuse me.
No, you're right.
Is truly absurd.
Well, do you think that when saying that was a question I had written down here? Do you think there is a real danger to any part? I've heard people say there's no danger in magic. That's ridiculous. I've heard others say it's all dangerous. Do you think that that's the only is there real danger in some of this stuff? I mean, obviously what you're telling me, yeah, I mean, if you're messing with your own psyche, that's dangerous, but things like curses and stuff that you try to cast on other people, I mean, what part of that is real and what part of that is not real? You know, I mean, do you get what I'm asking?
Well, we don't know what real is until we wake up anyway. So,
Sure.
So until then, we could say it's all unreal.
Right.
But as far as safety goes, in that, let's go back to that. You were telling the story about me evoking that demon early on. I was a young magician. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a big grasp on all of this. Actually, I was that evocation, in a sense, was a disaster, of a comedy of errors. But in that comedy of errors, I learned the great lesson. I learned what that magic was about. But in that evocation, if you recall, I burned my eyes terribly with that hot cinnamon oil of a bromelain that dripped down my forehead, and for a while, I was panicked in the shower, trying to wash that stuff out of my eyes. Now, my teacher said, "Oh, please don't do that evocation. You're not ready for that."
Right.
But I did it anyway. You said you mentioned that I went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah.
Now, she could have said, if she had the power of foresight, she could have said, "Oh, don't do that evocation, Lon. You'll burn your eyes. It's dangerous. You'll burn your eyes." Okay, and I said, "Well, I certainly don't want my eyes burned, so I'm not going to do that magic." I'm sorry. I needed to do that magic.
Yeah, that was the whole point
I needed that to happen. In some way, that was absolutely part of my will. I've learned a lesson during that ceremony that I'm talking about with you right now. It's still teaching me. It's still teaching others. It was a wonderful thing. It was dangerous. I hurt myself. And you can get hurt. As a matter of fact, you're more likely to get hurt just walking out, going to work in the morning, than you are getting hurt doing any kind of magic. If you're afraid of getting hurt, don't get out of bed tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Don't get on the freeway. That's for sure. You're coming 4 foot of
death.
Yeah,
absolutely. Times. So the point is, of course, everything is dangerous. Brushing your teeth is dangerous. Okay, but you do certain things to advance your consciousness. You do certain things to evolve. And most evolution takes place after you've had some resistance to something, that you've struggled to overcome that existence, and you've mutated yourself because of that struggle. That's what evolution is. And that happens with your soul as much as it happens with your body.
That's a very I don't think you could have given me a better answer to that in that one, because that one was really a big important thing to me, because I've had a lot of moments in my life where I've been in that situation and still do sometimes, and the whole idea that we have around money, or what we deserve, or what we think we deserve, or what we're good enough to have, Meanwhile, we have a God that says, just ask and I'll give it to you. And I love you more than anything. Anything. I love you. There's a contrast there. There's a barrier there. And that barrier is a demon. You made me realize that. And I just want to thank you for it. Just that little concept. Now, I'm not going to go start, here we go. I'm not going to go start evoking demons left and right. But it was just really a good, so many questions that I've been struggling with for a long time that you answer in all of your work, even in your music. And it makes me wonder how much of your success, and you are successful when it comes to your content, your music, and all this stuff, how much of this was a result of your knowledge of magic and your experience of magic?
Well, ultimately, all of it.
Right.
Okay, it's been a long and kind of crazy career with a 25-year break in between the music part of the career, and in that 25 years, I wrote 17 books and and
you got publishers
kind
right
of
now.
established my work and all of that. But when I picked up the guitar, I didn't seem like I was going back to music. And when I started writing books, it didn't seem like I was stopping my career. When I was in high school, I was a junior in high school. In the summer before my junior year, the music director of the school showed up at my house with the album of The Music Man with Robert Preston, and he says, we're going to be doing The Music Man as a school musical this coming year, and I want you to memorize this part, this Harold Hill's part. The song's called Trouble. And he gave me the whole summer to memorize it. Okay, I didn't know what this is about or anything else. I didn't even think of it as being music. I thought of it as what is in front of me to do. What's right in front of my nose to do. I didn't have a job. Okay. I wasn't thinking of this as my work or my career or anything else. I just learned that song. Okay.
Right.
In a sense, just memorizing that song was my own magical act.
Okay.
And I'm getting an echo here in my earphones here.
Yeah, I can kind of hear it too. Sorry about that. I don't know if it's my mic or what's going on with that. It just started happening, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, even that I considered magic, and at the time I didn't look at it as such, but looking back, our whole life has been one giant, continual, 24/7 magical act.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a really short break and try to fix that call, and then we got to wrap this up because we got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Guys. And let me just...
we got a magical song, I think, some kind to play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got one coming up right here, and you guys just stick around. We're going to wrap this up. We'll be right back here.
I do not care who you worship as God.
All right, I'm going to try Lon back here on this line, see what we get. I expected to have one technological failure. You know, it happens. Are you with us, Lon?
Yes, I am.
All right, sorry about that. I'm back in the woods in Arkansas, so I've got wires running from trailer to pig pen to trailer house and all kinds of stuff. So I'm surprised it lasted that long. But what I was going to ask you, and I think you've covered just about everything I've written down here.
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
Yeah. I really, I hate to put you on the spot here with this, but is the Monday Night Magic thing open, or is it you got it closed right now? Can anybody still join that?
Yeah, if they're in Costa Mesa.
Oh, you have to go. Oh, I thought it was like didn't you have some webinar or something that you were doing?
Yeah, but I only set up 3 or 4 of those a year.
Okay, all right.
I don't have any of those scheduled at the moment.
Okay. I won't miss the next one. I know you had one
I'm going to
recently.
hang on a second. I'm going to plug my earphones in this phone.
Sure.
And if I get cut off, call me right back.
I sure will.
Okay.
A good old...
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I can hear you much better now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Lon. I am working on my setup here, but we've come a long ways with what I got.
I've experienced much worse than this.
Thanks. That makes me feel a lot better. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You got anything? You got some books you said you're working on that I'm sure you can't talk about them or anything, but man, if you stop writing books, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, I'm going to keep on writing as long as I'm horizontal.
As long as
or
you're vertical.
I write laying down. No. It'll be a second installment of the Kabbalah teachings of Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford.
Oh, that's going to be great.
It'll be wiser books. It will be probably out in spring of 2018 because it'll be 2017 by the time I get the manuscript to them. But I'm working on that, and I'm still doing a lot of recording. But I would just strongly encourage anybody to check out my music on Spotify, and it's available on Amazon and CD Baby and
you got
all of that.
5 albums out. Your last one was Sweet Babylon, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sweet Babylon. Sweet Babylon is sort of a compilation, and it's out electronically for download. And I'm Baba Lon, Babylon II, and Gentle Heretic are on CDs and electronic download.
Yeah, and listen to all that stuff. Some of those songs with the strings and the saxophone really sets off your voice, man, and the music. I'm telling you, it's addicting. It grows on you big time.
Oh, great! I'm glad. I've been really lucky to have some really wonderful musicians help us. The young woman that was singing backup to me in the first song that we played tonight, Don't Write Me Off, that's Charlotte Gibson. Charlotte Gibson backs up 9 Inch Nails and is one of the hardest working vocalists in the industry, and she just took over that session, and I just love her to death. My wife saw her on Austin City Limits backing up 9 Inch Nails, and she says, if you ever want this wild sort of soul backup singer to any of your songs, you got to get that girl. And I said, oh yeah, sure, as if I could get her. And when we set the set up the studio time, the engineer asked me, well, who do you see singing backup vocals on that? I said, well, I would love to see Charlotte Gibson on that. And he says, oh, I know Charlotte. I'll give her a call. And so I had her. Then I got Chris Wynot playing saxophone on a couple numbers, and he plays clarinet on a couple numbers too. And he's one of the finest living jazz and blues jazz saxophonists alive.
Yeah,
and he's
really
just a local guy here. And so I've used him, and then my backup was Jason Chesney on bass, and Sean Norris, who plays with Dwight Yoakam.
Oh, really?
On
I'm
drums.
a big Yoakam fan. I like Dwight Yoakam.
And so I've been really, really lucky. And oh my gosh, Rick Shea plays pedal steel guitar. Oh my gosh, on Roman Rider.
Yeah, Roman Rider.
Oh.
And guys, gosh. I've uploaded all of these songs. I've still got some more to put into the live station, but they play frequently on here now. I've still got a few more I got to do. But
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Which album? I've been looking for it because it's one of my favorites. To where you talk about the song "I Like to Get Drunk in My Car."
Oh, I think that's on. Is that on Gentle Heretic?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's almost like for some reason I couldn't find it. I'll find it.
I believe it's either on Gentle Heretic or Sweet Baba Lon.
I'll get it out, guys, so you can hear that one too. That's a good one.
I love that. That is a magic. That's a magic song. I usually play that song first, when especially in a venue where people have never seen me before.
Well,
and they see this old guy get up.
Your music is
and just start off by saying, "I love to get drunk in the car."
It's a good song, man. And there's a lot of people. I mean, even if you're sitting in the driveway, I mean, you're in your car. It's something about it. You know, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Your music is it's like adventurous. That's why I call it road music. I mean, you go from God for an hour to Bernice, and then Drunk in My Car, and it's every aspect of life you sing about. It's really it's really good.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoy it.
Well, listen, I don't want to hold you up any longer. It's been a real blessing to have you on this show, and hopefully you had a little fun, and maybe you'd like to come back one day when you get your new stuff out. And we're standing on I'm standing on my toenails here waiting for that. No pressure or nothing, Lon. You know. I know you got the publishers pressing you too.
Don't worry. I survive on no pressure.
Thanks. I really mean thanks for coming out. It's been a blast.
Oh, well, the pleasure was all mine.
All right, guys. We're wrapping it up here. We'll see you guys next week. We got some special guests coming on next week, and that was Lon Milo DuQuette, master of magic, music, and just about everything else. We'll see you guys next week.